scenario to working with David Lynch on Lost Highway, where you're playing someone in a scenario that's hard to tell if it's real or not. But it's also it's kind of fascinating because as you talk about the kind of persona you can play on film and having, to some degree a type, David Lynch tends to take certain kinds of types and turn them inside out. So working with him, how did he sort of guide you through what is such a complex, mysterious part?
Well, he's a director who comes from the art world. He trained as a visual artist, and I think in some ways he despises psychology. And there's something reductive about psychology. And yet, most people that train to be in theater and film and as directors and actors and everything, you learn that psychology is a modality to talk about characters and actions and intentions and things like that. David, he just would be in pain if anybody said, "What's my motivation?" It's a terrible word, because it doesn't have to do with the illumination of dreams. It doesn't have to do with the inaccessible sides of our minds and our intentions, and that's what he's interested in. So if you use intentional thought process like psychology to arrive at something empirically, you're already losing. So what would he say? He had the most curious ways of talking about scenes. I peeked in at the screening of Lost Highway, at the beginning of it, and because Carlo has a great, this festival has a strong belief in showing the movie as it was intended to be shown. So 35 millimeter print you got to see, beautiful. I love it when they don't mask the sides. So in Europe, you get to see the edges of the film, and I just looking at that at the opening. There's some scenes of darkness and the black, and I remember how important that black was to David. And a lot of my journey was to walk into blackness. My character would go down these corridors, and that particular way that when Fred Madison walked into the particular one moment, the critical moment of the story where I go into the hallway and disappear, it was so important to him. So what did he tell me? I say, so what am I thinking? Or what do I do? I come down here. And he said, well, you go down, you turn, you look to see where you're going, and then you start walking, and it becomes kabuki.
Quite a punchline.
Quite a punchline, yeah. I said, okay, let's go. Back to one.
It must have been baffling as well to start reading the script for this project, assume you were the main character, and then all of a sudden after an hour, you vanished.
Yeah. And some of it is my acting, but some of it with David is also something very interesting he did with the DP, which was Peter Deming. And it was something I had never seen before, and I saw a few people do it afterwards, which is as I walked, they took the whole lens package off the front of the camera and just lifted it away, so there was no lens seeing the blackness. And the way that I disappear, I think, is so magical because of this little technique, And so I think that's also part of his bag of tricks.
Well, and so you end the 90s having worked with all these different kinds of filmmakers, many different kinds of experiences, and then you chose to direct the film yourself, the Virginian Western. So what was it like having had these experiences with so many filmmakers to step behind the camera, even though you also acted in that film, and see what that creative challenge was like?
Yeah, I think you realize what an exciting thing it is to direct a movie where you have a choice. And I think David, working with Lynch, it changed a lot of people that I worked with. I remember Patricia Arquette saying that after she finished Lost Highway, she wanted to write a novel. And other people on the crew were suddenly talking about wanting to do other things, challenges, creative challenges, because you're so struck by his sense of being able to make something of a few ingredients. His idea is that every painter has the same colors available to them, and sometimes they can just choose red, blue, and green, and they can make a whole world happen with that, and everybody has that chance. And I think I remembered that a lot going into directing the Virginian, because I think I realized the Virginian is based on a novel written by Owen Wister in 1903. So up until that time, America had no idea of the romantic idea of a cowboy, except for a certain hyperbolic dime novels about mythological aspects of Wild Bill Hickok and that kind of thing. But this novel came along, and it was like the Star Wars of its day. It defined a romantic hero, man with no name, who comes out of nowhere. There's a tenderfoot that is kind of, all the iconographic characters are in this Western. And here I am making this Western that had been made in 1929 with Gary Cooper, and 1946 with Joel McCrea, and had been a TV series. And to me, I felt like I want to take the same story that other people have, and I have to make this as intensely personal as I can, and I think a lot of that inspiration came from working with David.
So, and as we get into the next decade, it's, even though you had these different kinds of